نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد بسم الله. Today inshallah we'll go through the summary of Surah Al-Ahqaf. Surah Al-Ahqaf means the sand dunes or the dunes. It's a Makki surah. It has 35 ayahs and 4 ruku. The name comes from the verse 21 of the surah, and it means sand dunes literally, but it was the name of the place where Ad used to live, the nation of Ad used to live in Yemen. A brief synopsis of the surah. The surah begins with a declaration of Quran as a divine book from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and describes righteous people as those who believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, establish their faith and obey parents. Mentions qualities of disbelievers as those who have gone astray, who remain engrossed in worldly affairs, disobey parents, and deny resurrection. The surah reminds of the punishment of the nation of Ad and the neighboring cities of Makkah. And in particular, it shares the incident of a group of jinns who listened to Quran, accepted faith, and then invited other people towards truth. And finally, it advises Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to be patient, similar to how other determined prophets were. The Ulul Azm, the 5 prophets who have been termed Ulul Azm. Let's go to the verses of the surah. So the surah begins with describing Quran as a divine book revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حميم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم. And it gives us this understanding that the power to create something is an essential attribute for any deity worthy of worship. So all these other idols and deities of worship that were identified by the people at that time or even today, they should have the power to create something that's essential for them to be considered a Lord or God. قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَرُونِي مَاذَا خَلَقُوا مِنَ الْأَرْضِ. Worshipping idols is irrational, since they can neither hear nor respond to any call for help. وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنْ يَدْعُو مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَنْ لَا يَسْتَجِيبُ لَهُ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ وَهُمْ عَنْ دُعَائِهِمْ غَافِلُونَ. We also learn that falsification upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a major transgression and calls for a severe punishment. أَمْ يَقُولُونَ افْتَرَاهُ قُلْ إِنِ افْتَرَيْتُهُ فَلَا تَمْلِكُونَ لِي مِنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا. And there is the argument given in this surah that considering Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a prophet was not so far from reality, could not have been an unbelievable proposition, especially since others in the past, like Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam, they were accepted as prophets by Jews and Christians. So there were other humans in the past that were accepted. And then when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam declares prophethood, it shouldn't be such a surprise. And this goes all the way back to even other prophets, Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, who is considered the father of Abrahamic religions. So Christian, Jews, and Muslims all believe in Ibrahim alayhi salam. So when all these humans in the history of mankind were accepted as prophets, so this shouldn't be such a new idea when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam proclaims prophethood. قُلْ مَا كُنْتُ بِدْعًا مِنَ الرُّسُلِ. Then we learn about a common fallacy among arrogant people. Arrogant people is to consider divine favor as a right rather than a privilege. So their argument was that since we have been bestowed with wealth and children and other social status in this world, then we should be the ones that would have accepted the truth if it was given to us in the form of the Quran or in the form of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as a messenger, but the fact that it was the poor people in the society and people other than themselves that had accepted Islam, this made them consider it was the book that is fabricated. Allah. وقال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا لو كان خيرا ما سبقونا إليه. Then we learn about believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remaining steadfast are the qualities that guarantee protection from fear and sorrow. And the sorrow generally is from the past of committing wrong. And when someone believes in Allah and repents, that sorrow is taken away, is mended by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that grief, you get over that grief. And similarly, the fear is more towards the future. And again, when someone believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and does that tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remains steadfast, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of his future and takes away this worry from him. And the same could be considered in the context of the hereafter, that these people will not be among the grievers, will not be among sad people in the hereafter. And similarly, they will not have fear of being punished in the hereafter. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. And we see how Quran mentions worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and service to parents in close proximity in many places in this surah also. After mentioning the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remaining steadfast, a couple of verses later, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا. This surah gives the fuqaha ability to derive ruling around the duration of pregnancy and the maximum duration of suckling or nursing. So the minimum pregnancy period of pregnancy has been determined to be 6 months. Maximum duration of suckling is 24 months. And from these, there are rulings that are derived around, whether someone is a legitimate child, or similarly, there is foster parenthood that is defined if the suckling happened within the first 24 months. وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ 30 شهرا. Then we learn about the important age of 40 years, which is specifically mentioned in this surah, and the fact that this is a major milestone in the life of a person, and it should be marked with gratitude, repentance, and supplication, dua. And this is in such a important moment that if you have reached this mature age, by this time you should have had opportunity to really understand, the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, the experience that you would have around you, to really identify yourself with the Lord of the world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then accept Islam if that hasn't happened. And similarly, beyond that, this is where it's a turning point for you. You're going towards your end of life, understanding that average lifespan today is about 66 years. So this should be a very important milestone in your life to reflect and to think about your hereafter in particular. حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال رب أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points towards his justice and the fact that good actions of disbelievers are not disregarded, they're not ignored. And the only difference is they are remunerated within this world, they are being rewarded within this world. so that when the hereafter comes, they would have no part in the rewards and blessings of the hereafter. وَيَوْمَ يُعْرَضُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا عَلَى النَّارِ أَذْهَبْتُمْ طَيِّبَاتِكُمْ فِي حَيَاتِكُمُ الدُّنْيَا وَاسْتَمْتَعْتُمْ بِهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment cannot be averted through human power, intelligence, technology, or any other means. Once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided and his punishment is set, nothing can protect anyone from it to take effect. وَلَقَدْ مَكَّنَّاهُمْ فِيمَا إِن مَّكَّنَّاكُمْ فِيهِ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُمْ سَمْعًا وَأَبْصَارًا وَأَفْئِدَةً فَمَا أَغْنَى عَنْهُمْ سَمْعُهُمْ وَلَا أَبْصَارُهُمْ وَلَا أَفْئِدَتُهُمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِذْ كَانُوا يَجْحَدُونَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ وَحَاقَ بِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. The Quran is recited, it should be listened to attentively and quietly, like we learn about how the jinns, when they heard Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam recite in prayer, then they paid attention, and hence they got the impact upon them of accepting the faith and then becoming the warners and inviters to others. وَإِذْ صَرَفْنَا إِلَيْكَ نَفْرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقُرْآنَ فَلَمَّا حَضَرُوهُ قَالُوا أَنصِتُوا. Also, the acceptance of faith leads to forgiveness, salvation, and rewards. يَا قَوْمَنَا أَجِيبُوا دَاعِيَ اللَّهِ وَآمِنُوا بِهِ يَغْفِرْ لَكُم مِّن ذُنُوبِكُمْ وَيُجِرْكُم مِّنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Towards the end, we learn about the determined prophets, Ulul Azm prophets. And we know from other places in the Quran that they're named, as scholars have identified them to be Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam in particular is asked to be patient and don't call upon punishment too early for people who have been rejecting faith, similar to how other determined prophets in the past have. And the worldly life will be felt as short-lived as an hour of a day in the hereafter. Such is the comparison between our time on this earth versus the longevity and eternal nature of the hereafter. كَأَنَّهُمْ يَوْمَ يَرَوْنَ مَا يُوعَدُونَ لَمْ يَلْبَثُوا إِلَّا سَاعَةً مِّن نَهَارٍ. And finally, Quran is a notification of guidance and a warning. بَلَاغٌ فَهَلْ يُهْلَكُ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.